All right, we are live.
America, 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 fuck yeah! Going together, sing the motherfucking day, yeah, America, fuck yeah! Freedom is the only way, yeah.
All right, today we are going to do a quick review of President Trump's visit to Buckingham Palace. He met with the current individual who is titled the King of England, King Charles. So let's not waste any time. Let's get right to it. I'm going to take you to that screen. So he did this visit today, and I looked over it really briefly. Well, actually, before we do that, I wanted you to. Well, that's Queen Philippa. We're going to get back to that one, but this is what I want to show you. Right. Let's see. Now let's go ahead and get right to it. All right. Without further ado, this is the visit between the president, says President Trump, and First Lady Melania Trump attend state banquet at Windsor, UK.
Mr. President, Mrs. Trump, it is with great pleasure that my wife and I welcome you to Windsor Castle.
So this individual here, these Europeans, this one here is the one that is titled King Charles, and this is President Trump of the United States. I wanted to mention King Charles, so he's going to go on to state his lineage, and he claims to be of the lineage of the Moors, which I say he's not. Now, is it possible that you can mix someone from me to look like him over the generations? I'm not sure how many generations that would be. I think they would look like the people that that call themselves the Jews, like this guy. You can't see my, hold on. Like this guy. Over the generations, they would probably look like this and not like this. They started off as one of us, or someone with my complexion, or a natural melanated person, or I don't say melanated, but a person with melanin, and you mix them with the biological albinoid European over several generations, he would likely look like this. From the time of so the Moors were in power all the way until a little after the 1500s, and they ruled all of Europe. But let's go ahead and continue his speech.
On this, your second state visit to the United Kingdom, this unique and important occasion reflects the enduring bond between our two great nations, anchored by the deep friendship between our people. This relationship, which, with good reason, we and our predecessors have long called special, has made us safer and stronger through the generations. Our people have fought and died together for the values we hold dear. We have innovated, traded, and created together, fueling our economies and cultures through myriad forms of exchange. We have celebrated together, mourned together, and stood together in the best and worst of times. Mr. President, as we approach the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence next
Next year is the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence, where the Europeans that made their way to America supposedly claimed their independence from, so it said, from the Moors of Europe. But I'm not sure that that was the case, because, you know, some people will make us claim that the Moors of Europe brought the Europeans here. And while the Moors of Europe did travel here at the same time that the Europeans were coming here, and well before then, you have to remember they were being taken out of power. These kings were getting their heads chopped off. So, you know, the concept that the Moors are the Moors of Europe are the orchestrators of the cataclysm that has happened all over the earth, as far as when the Europeans went all over the earth and conquered the earth and genocided the people. That some people will say that the Moors orchestrated it. I say no, they didn't. They were being taken out of power. You'll see if you look at the coat of arms, look up the Moors' coat of arms, look up the name Moor, and you'll see some of them, or one in particular says, we shall, something along the lines as we shall rise again, or talking about that the Moors will come back into power again, which means that they were losing power. You know, so I do want to make that point. But just to make the point that who the Moors were, or who the royalty was of Europe, we're going to look at Queen Philippa of Hainaut. Queen Philippa of Hainaut was married to Edward III. So you see this image right here. Well, actually, I'm not. Let me go ahead and show that image. Let's see. I didn't have that shared already. Philippa of Hainaut. All right. This is the image of Philippa of Hainaut. You see this? This is a false image. This is not what she looked like. But pay attention. You'll see that her nose is broad. You'll see that there's this funny coloration, almost like they colored over an original picture. So there was something called whitewashing during the iconoclasm in Europe. And what they did was they destroyed all the images of brown royalty. And again, all the royalty of Europe was brown, all the way into the 1400s, and even past that. You know, they were being taken out of power. So during the time of the iconoclasm, they started painting over original images. You'll even see, looks like she has locks right here. Can you see this? Let me make sure. It looks like she has locks, even though her hair is blonde. It's almost like they painted over locks. And you'll see it's a funny coloration. So look at the hands. The hands look cartoonish. The face looks a bit odd. All their hands look cartoonish, but if you look at the dress, it's not quite, it's not the same. It seems like not the same quality of artists. A lot of the images you'll see, if you look at the hands look odd, like they'll be kind of dark. And of other images. Some of them are just straight forgeries. Like this could be a straight forgery. It could be but it could also be an original that was painted over. And you'll look at some of them, you'll see the originals that are painted over. The clothes are maybe not this one in particular, but the clothes are very detailed. But the hands and the face look cartoonish. It's not even the same artist. It's obvious. But anyway, Queen Philippa of Hainaut, she was the queen. Let's see. Is this when she was? Okay. She lived between these years, between 1310 to 1369. But I want to get to right here. It gives right here, this is the letter, a letter that was written describing Queen Philippa of Hainaut. And so what happened was, so King Edward II, he needed to find a wife for his son, Edward III. And so he sent out some people to go and find a wife. And let's see. Okay, you see, they say that Ivan Montemer, and then this is the name of a Moor, but the thing is, later on, the Europeans the albino Europeans end up stealing the names of the Moors. But whenever you see the name, if you see MR, it's a Moor. You see MOR and then MER, it's a Moor. But anyway, and you'll see those are the royalty. They all are related to the people who have this name, the Moorish names or Moor names. Anyway, this guy says it's an account of her older sister, but if her older sister looks this way, then so does she. So let's read that account. And actually, this is the image. This is the first image. This is the image that I have on the thumbnail. Right. The image that I have on the thumbnail, it gives the same, it's the same writing that I just showed you that gives the depiction of what she looked like once the king's men found Philippa of Hainaut, who was to marry Edward III. It says the lady whom we saw was not uncomely, the lady who we saw has not uncomely hair, between blue, black, and brown. Now, between blue, black, and brown, it could be describing the hair, but it could also be describing the skin. It's hard to tell. And you see this ... It's indicating that there likely was more writing. So there's either there's something missing right here, but either way, you don't hear people often talk about hair being blue black, but there's black hair and there's brown hair, but you don't often hear the description being blue black. But look, you can see my hair is between blue, black, and brown, and I'm between blue, black, and brown, my skin. You see these individuals, like this individual here, the guy who is titled Edward, excuse me, he's not titled Edward, he's titled King Charles. He doesn't have black hair or brown hair, and his skin's not black or brown. It says her face narrows between the eyes, and its lower part is more narrow than her forehead. Her eyes are blackish brown and deep. My eyes are blackish brown And deep, I'm not sure what that means. I think it means very dark. His eyes are probably one of the colors that happens whenever somebody has a percentage or has a level of albinism. So there's levels of albinism. There's the complete albino. The complete albino, or the most albinoid. How you say it? The most albinized will have their hair will be white, their eyes will be red, and their um, and so on. But then as you get a little more melanin, then the hair turns yellow. A little more melanin, the hair turns like a brunette. It goes from between yellow and the brunette color. Then from there, a little more melanin, it turns um, black. The eyes, the most albinized is red, and then as you get a little more melanin, you get blue, and then a little more melanin, you get green. A little more melanin, you get hazel. A little more melanin, you get brown. A little more melanin, you get a what we call um, blackish brown. Okay. Um, so she, even having blackish brown hair, more than likely looks like this image here and not this image here. It says her eyes, okay, her eyes are blackish brown and deep. Her nose is fairly smooth and even, save it is somewhat broad at the tip. The nose is somewhat broad at the tip and flattened. See how my nose is rather flat? You see how his nose is not in any way, shape, or form flat? But he says that he descends from Philippa of Hainaut. I'm saying he does not. I'm saying that he's a pretender. He is not from the same line. They just took us Moors. They took my line out of power and then called themselves us. They called themselves the Moors. Okay, let's see. Her lips are full, especially the lower lip. Okay, you see, like this lip here is kind of full, but there's a lot of a lot of Americans that have even fuller lips. And then you see his lips are the exact opposite of full. And I want to go ahead and make this disclaimer that I'm not trying to be disrespectful. I'm trying to speak as much truth and be respectful at the same time. But when people lie and then dare you to tell the truth, sometimes the truth sounds like disrespect. But I'm not being disrespectful. I'm just explaining genetics and how this guy did not descend from my line. He didn't descend from the kings of Europe. And the kings of Europe, kings and queens of Europe, we were traveling back and forth between Europe, Africa, and America. We have the same blood. You'll even see there's a land called America, or an area called America, without the A, not America, but America without the A. In Europe, in the UK area, I am under the opinion that the Moors came from America and went to Europe, and then they came back to America during the time that the Europeans came here. And it should be pretty obvious, because as soon as so they say the Moors were defeated in, I think, 1491, and then in 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue to America. Where did he get the maps? How did he know exactly where to go? And then they came here and said that we look like Indians. Well, who looks more like an Indian? Do I look more like an Indian from India? Or do the people on the reservations who look like the individual titled King King Charles look like the Indians from India? The Indians from India, the vast majority are my color and darker. Some of the darkest people I've seen are from India. So if they came here and was calling us Indians, well, okay, anyway, let's continue to read about Philippa of Hainaut. Her lower teeth project a little beyond the upper. Yet this is but little seen. All her body is well set and unmaimed, and naught is amiss as far as a man can see, or as far as a man may see, which means they probably didn't lift up the skirt and check her hymen, because they're a man, and that's left for the women to do. Okay. Moreover, let's jump up here, right? None is and not amiss, and not is amiss as far as a man can see, or as far as a man may see. Moreover, she is brown of skin all over, much like her father. Okay, so Philippa of Hainaut is brown of skin all over, much like her father. Her father was also brown of skin all over. You see me? I am brown of skin all over. All of me is brown. Now, the individual who is styled as King Charles is not brown anywhere. Of course, and neither is President Trump of the United States or anybody else in that room. Let's see. Going back to the description of Queen Philippa of Hainaut. And she will be of the age of 9 years on St. John's Day next to come, as her mother said. She is neither too tall nor too short for such an age. She is of fair carriage, which means family, to my memory. The damsel is well taught in all that becometh her rank, and highly esteemed, and well beloved by her parents and all of her many, which is family for certain. Insofar as we could inquire and learn the truth. In all things she is pleasant enough, as it seems to us. Okay, this is the description of Queen Philippa of Hainaut. Queen Philippa of Hainaut is the ancestor of all of the European royalty. All of them, because we're all related. We're all cousins. Well, anyway, and we intermarried to make sure, to strengthen the bonds. We weren't just the kings and queens of Europe. We were the kings and queens of Russia. And if we were the kings and queens of Europe and Russia, we were likely the kings and queens of America. And of Africa. So more than likely, the royalty of the entire earth were related. We are all related. In fact, here in America, America has North America, well, let's say America, North America and our islands has the most royal blood of anywhere else in the world, because all the royalty, well, of course, we were all related to begin with. It's the same. It's the same. Royalty marries royalty, just like rich people marry rich people. And anyway, so not only were there already kings and queens here in America, but when the Moors were kicked out of Europe, they were brought here to America, or actually we came here to America and were brought here to America and mixed again with the indigenous people here, which I'm saying that we were all the same blood. We're Moors. Moors travel. That's what it means to be a Moor. It means a lot of things. Moor means many. So we were many. Moor means brown. We were brown. We are brown. Moor means traveler. We were travelers. We were travelers. That we weren't on any one coast. We were everywhere. And it's the empire of the Moors, the Moorish Empire, as we call it, is what the Europeans took over, and that's how they got to everywhere in the world, and were able to go to every continent and conquer it. It's because they just went to everywhere. They went to everywhere in the empire, and the empire was known. It was known to people. It wasn't a secret. And so America wasn't a secret from Europe. The Europeans knew about America. They didn't think they were going to fall off the edge of the earth. They had maps. The Moors had maps because we were traveling the waters since before Europeans came into existence, or before what we call modern Europeans, or the Albinoid Europeans. Before they came into existence, we were traveling all over the world. We were the kings and queens everywhere. And so they took our maps. So once they conquered us in Europe, this has been a generational thing. It didn't happen in 1 year. It's the same way in India. They have what's called the caste system, where they kill the caste system. The idea is to kill off the brown or the melanated. I'm not going to use the word melanated because we didn't come from a state of albinism into a state of melanin. The natural state is the state of melanin, and the albinism was grafted out and the way you do that is by you keep mixing closely related people, and then you'll end up getting an albino from one family. You get an albino from another family. You mix those albinos together, and then the child is an albino. That's how you create an albino. That's how you create the population of Europeans, the albinoids. This is not disrespect. This is history and sound science. It's the same thing we do when we create other albino creatures. Any living thing that has a high population of albinos, or any living creature where there's a high population of albinos, those creatures were actually tampered with by humans. And once you find an albino, from one family, you find an albino from another, then you make an albino colony, and then you have the albinos mix with each other and produce more albinos. But the more you do that, the weaker the genetics get. So you have to bring in a person with melanin into that population so that it can give them a little bit of melanin. So Europeans, you'll see that they're not completely albinized. They have a little bit of melanin because they keep mixing in melanin back into that albino colony. But all this to say, this guy here, did not descend from Philippa of Hainaut. And Philippa of Hainaut and all the other royalty, we never looked like this. I'm saying that he's an imposter in the most respectful way that I can say it, or a pretender. And so what I was saying about India, so I was saying that the Moors were taken over gradually over I'm probably thousands of years, but over many generations. So in India, they have what's called the caste system. That's the same as what's here. Black and white is a caste system. Here in America, the black people and the white people. So the black people are at the bottom of the caste, and the white people are at the top of the caste. And what happens is the albinos, the white people, they have a system that kills out as many of the brown people as possible. And we can talk about all the different ways they do that. And then the attempt is to create as many albinos as possible. And so they have baby booms or different incentives to raise the white population or raise the colony of albinos, or this particular type of albino. Now, the same thing in India. So the bottom of the caste system is what they call untouchables, or the Dalits. Those are the darkest people. That's the same as black. Dalit, that's delete. That's more than likely why they call them Dalits. It's because they're trying to delete them. The same reason they call us black. In a previous podcast, I read all the definitions of black, and they named us black because they're saying they're deleting us, right? Black means void. That's one of the definitions, is void, or null and void, right? So they're trying to delete us. We are the Dalits of this caste system here in America. It's just a different language. It's actually Latin. And in India, the Dalits, or the deleted, the people who are subject to deletion by white supremacy, the caste system in India is the same as white supremacy. It's just, we call it a little bit something different. So they delete the Dalits, right? And then they try to increase the population of the albinoid, or they call it the Brahmin class, but the Brahmin class are the ones that look more and more like the modern Europeans, because they're not all albinos, but they're albinoid, or have some level of albinism. They're becoming lighter and lighter and lighter and lighter. And this is what I'm saying, is that it wasn't just 1 year all this catastrophe happened. This is over many generations, over thousands of years. And then at a certain point, they started killing all the kings, or a lot of the kings. A lot of the kings, you'll read that they were running. They were hiding. They had was it the real King Charles had to go to Louis, had to go to France to seek refuge. Prince Charles, or King Charles, had to seek refuge with King Louis, his cousin, because they chopped off his father's head, if I have that correct. You see, so by the time the Europeans got here to America, the Moors had already lost power in Europe. That's why, the common saying is that in 1491 they defeated the Moors. If they defeated the Moors, then I don't even understand this conversation about blaming the Moors for this calamity. This is something that no one person did, or not even one group, but this is something that has occurred over a long period of time. And now that we know it, we should stop it. We should stop this occurrence because this evil is evil to kill people. It's evil to call people untouchables. That's evil. It's evil to call people a backwards class or a backwards caste. That's evil. It's evil to call someone black. That's evil. We should stop the evil. So, and the word evil is live spelled backwards, right? And so that's how we use language. It's the incorrect way to live is evil. So let's go back to, just so you see that this description that I just read of Philippa of Hainaut is the same description. It's the same description that we read in the Wikipedia page of Philippa of Hainaut. The same description. I pulled that from the Wikipedia page. This is Wikipedia. Philippa of Hainaut right here. You see they have an image that's obviously not her. That image is not that image. That hair is not between blue or betwixt blue, black, and brown, right? That the hair that I'm looking at in this image is blonde, even though it looks like she has locks. And I don't know that they were saying that the hair was blue, black, betwixt blue, black, and brown, even though there's a comma, which usually, if there was a period. So let's see, if this was one sentence, the lady whom we saw has not uncomely hair betwixt blue, black, and brown. So it could be talking about the hair, but because there's a ... means that this is more there's more to the sentence. And even maybe there's multiple sentences after this. So it could be like when we hear a person is blue, black, that we're talking about their skin color. And when we say someone's hair is brown, or excuse me, that someone's brown, we're usually talking about their skin color. It could be the hair. It could. But I'm saying more than likely this is talking about her skin color. But it's reinforced later on where it says that, moreover, she is brown of skin. Am I sharing the correct page? Okay, I am. It says, moreover, she is brown. She is brown of skin all over, much like her father. That image, this image here, this is not brown of skin anywhere, right? It's painted white. The description says that her nose is somewhat broad at the tip and flattened. Now, this nose is actually a bit broad at the tip, but not necessarily flattened. Her lips are full, especially the lower lip. In this image, the lips are not full, any of the lips. You see, this is not a real image of Philippa of Hainaut. And it goes back to the cataclysm, or not the cataclysm. Well, it was a cataclysm, but the iconoclasm. Let me show you. So let's see. I'm gonna get back to the speech. I know that's what we're reviewing, but this is part of the broadcast. Okay, let's look up the Great Iconoclasm. Okay, the term Great Iconoclasm refers primarily to the widespread outbreak of destruction of religious images in Europe in the 16th century, particularly particularly the I'm not going to sound that out. It's talking about a certain time period, but it says sometime in 1566, but in the 16th century. So in the 1500s is when what we call the Great Iconoclasm occurred, but it was happening even before then. So the images were being destroyed. Even if it's true, I don't know if it's true or not, but even what's her name? Queen Elizabeth, Queen Elizabeth I is said to was said to paint her face white. And maybe she did, maybe she didn't. But if she did, I think that might have been a part of the iconoclasm where they couldn't depict, or for some reason, I don't know, I wasn't in that time. And you can't really, some people will say something happened in history and like they're certain of it, but you weren't there. People lie about what happened yesterday, right? So, um, but if this is true, I'm saying the kings and queens were losing power. Um, the iconoclasm was to destroy all the brown images, the religious images. Many of them were brown. Let's go back to right here. Let's listen to his speech. Wait, before we go on, look at his nose. Does his nose look like it's broad at the tip and flattened? No. Do his lips look full, especially the bottom lip? No. Is he brown of skin all over? No. Is he betwixt blue, black, and brown? No. Is his hair betwixt blue, black, and brown? No. Therefore, I say he is a pretender, much like his father and his father and his father. But let's allow him to speak.
It is remarkable to think just how far we have come. I cannot help but wonder what our forebears from 1776 would make of this friendship today. The rebel commander and pioneering first president, George Washington.
Actually, everybody in this room that you see are all pretenders. They're all acting like someone they're not. This was a room full of Moors, or the same people who are American today. Like the real Americans, me. Let's continue.
Famously vowed never to set foot on British soil. And my 5 times great-grandfather, King George III.
Lies. His 5-time great-grandfather, King George III. This is what I'm saying. He is not from that bloodline. He's saying what he's saying he's from the bloodline of Philippa of Hainaut and all the other Moors. The Moors ruled Europe even after the 1500s. But it took time to take them out of power. And if you remember, or if you've read, according to what's written in history, they came up with parliament during the time of the first, what's his name? King James the First. And it took power away from the king. So they were taking power away from the king. They split the power between the king and the parliament. I think it was during the time of King James the First. If it wasn't King James the First, then it was right before him. I think it was King James I, where they implemented Parliament to take power away from the king. So, like I said, it was systematically done. Not it wasn't. I'm saying it wasn't a joint. It wasn't a group. I mean, let's say it wasn't a decision for the Moorish Empire to destroy the Moorish Empire. Now, how would that help the Moors? How would it help the Moors? The power was being taken away from them gradually. So a lot of the things that happened were political. They were political fights. And when you get a large enough population of a different people, it's easier to win political battles. Okay.
For his part, did not spare his words when he spoke of the revolutionary leaders. Today, however, we celebrate a relationship between our two countries that surely neither Washington nor King George III could possibly have imagined. The ocean may still divide us, but in so many other ways, we are now the closest of kin.
They are close of kin. That you see, these are the you can see the blood relation. Like I said, so all albinos are related. All albinos are closely related, and they descend from just a few ancestors. As a matter of fact, they're the most inbred of all people. That's how you create albinos, is to inbreed. You'll even oftentimes you have to take brother and sister albino brother and albino sister to mix them in order to create another albino, because it's hard to find a big there's not a big population of albinos does not exist naturally. It's an unnatural occurrence. You have to keep mixing close relatives, and I'm talking about brother and sister close, first cousins close. So everybody in this room that you see is related. And I mean, like, what do they call them? They're very, very, very closely related, and they only have a few ancestors. You say, or they come from just a few ancestors, much like our food. If you read up about the food that we eat, so the cows that we eat, they come from one or two grandfathers, great however many generations back, because that's how you create the albino cow that we eat, the more albinized cow. A lot of and that's another thing that they've done to our food, what they call white supremacy, is so crazy. They're making our food albino. They're making our food white. And the way they do this is by mixing mixing closely related animals. And I'm talking about closely related, like brother and sister. That's how you get this whiter and whiter type of cow. That's not a brown cow anymore. Or what else? The chickens that are so white. How do you think they created white chickens? Again, some things that are white are albino. And the Europeans decided to call themselves white so that we don't call them albino. So we don't correctly identify them as being genetically albinized or genetically albino. And it's okay to be albino, but this is exactly what's going on. So our food even is albino or has albinism and is closely related. And that's the only way you create a large population of living organisms with albino, is you have to keep mixing brother and sister or the very, very closely related individuals, whether it's the food that we eat or the people that we see.
Mr. President, you have spoken of your pride in your British roots. In fact, not only have you set foot on British soil twice in the last 2 months alone, but I understand that British soil makes for rather splendid golf courses. Now, for my part, I have always admired the ingenuity of the American people and the principles of freedom which your great democracy has represented since its inception. Throughout my life, from the very first visit to the United States in 1995, and I have always admired the ingenuity of the American people and the principles of freedom.
And the principles of freedom from its very inception, from the inception of the United States. I mean, just outright lies. From the inception of the United States, it wasn't about freedom. Or else we wouldn't have the whole concept of slavery of the United States in the United States. So let's allow him to keep speaking. He's telling some things that he is saying some things that are completely untrue. Like his lineage is from the Moors. It's completely untrue. That the United States inception was about freedom. It's completely untrue. But let's allow him to continue to speak.
Which your great democracy has represented since its inception. Throughout my life, from the very first visit to the United States in 1970, and over 20 visits since that time, I have cherished the close ties between the British and American peoples. In fact, had the media succeeded in the 1970s in their own attempt at deepening the special relationship, I myself might have been married off within the Nixon family.
Yeah, that's interesting to know that he might have, he was going to marry into the Europeans that are here in the United States or here in America. But the United States doesn't allow nobility. You can't have a noble title here in the United States. So they don't allow kings and queens. And that's because there were kings and queens here, and they had to take the kings and queens out of power. They had to take us out of power here in America. That's why they don't allow nobility titles.
Mr. President, from York to New York, from Birmingham, England to Birmingham, Alabama, we are united by a common language and shared heritage. The many thousands of people from each of our countries who have made the other their home have enriched our societies immeasurably, a fact that gives me the greatest pride. Our cultural connections too continue to flourish with our actors, musicians, writers and television presenters prospering in the hearts of transatlantic audiences. Today, our alliance spans every field of endeavor and shows vast potential for growth.
I wonder who she is. It's hard to tell if somebody is an American or original European or an African, because we all look so close. We all look so similar. Like this guy here. If you can see the mouse, my mouse was pointing at two individuals, the brown people, or the individuals in their natural state with melanin. And then everybody else is outside of the natural state, which is okay. Again, I'm not being disrespectful by explaining biology. Sometimes it's a difficult topic to talk about biology if a whole population of people lie about biology. Okay.
The United Kingdom was your partner in the first trade deal of your administration, Mr. President, bringing jobs and growth to both our countries. And no doubt we can go even further as we build this new era of our partnership. Our two nations have an exceptional legacy of shared discovery. Together, we laid the foundations of nuclear science, mapped the human genome,
Which is awesome, mapping the human genome.
and built the internet, upon which all
The internet is also awesome.
contemporary commerce, communication, and defense is based.
And of course, it was with the help of the people in their natural state of having melanin.
Together, our scientists and engineers are shaping the world of tomorrow, not least with new partnership agreements on technology and the prosperity that stands to bring. Our countries have the closest defense, security, and intelligence relationship ever known. In 2 world wars, we fought together.
The First World War is when they finally defeated the Moorish Empire. So I remember my brother Dexter was telling me, so he was taking African African studies and other cultural studies, and Pan-African studies. And he came back and was telling me about what actually happened in World War One. That this is when they took out the Moorish power. They finished taking out the Moorish power because the Moors were still had, it's hard to take out a group of people all at once, or take out an empire all at once. It takes thousands of years. But in World War One, they went and they were able to conquer the rest of, a lot of the Moors in that Morocco area. Again, the Moors aren't just in Morocco. The Moors travel by waterway and by airway and by land. The Moors are travelers. So we are all over the earth. We are the brown people all over the earth. I'm going to allow them to continue speaking.
To defeat the forces of tyranny.
To defeat the Moors.
Today, as tyranny once again threatens Europe,
I'm sorry.
We and our allies stand together in support of Ukraine to deter aggression and secure peace. And our AUKUS submarine partnership with Australia sets the benchmark for innovative and vital collaboration.
Okay, and so now they've gone. Now the albinoid European is everywhere in the world, and they're controlling each landmass. And then so he's saying he's in collaboration with Australia, but the Australians look like me until the Europeans went over there and decimated the people. And then so when he says that he's collaborating with Australia, he's saying he's collaborating with one of the colonies, one of the albino colonies that has been placed in Australia. And when he says he's collaborating with America, he's talking about he's collaborating with the albino colony that is here to colonize America, or that has pretty successfully colonized America. And America is North and South. So when he says America, when they say America, then they don't mean the United States. If they mean the United States, they will say the United States. They don't mix up their words. Once you get to this level of power, you don't mix up your words. It's only, at the lower levels that people don't really understand the difference between America and the United States, or the difference between Black and African American and more. They understand the difference. And I mean, a lot of us sometimes we talk about understanding the difference, and but if you listen to if you listen to the people, a lot of our people who or a lot of the people who have melanin, that should know and that say they know what these terms mean. You listen to them talk, and you find out that they really don't know, and it's okay because we're all learning together.
The successes of the British Redcoats and of George Washington's Continental Army today stand shoulder to shoulder, brothers and sisters in arms, protecting the freedoms we both cherish. Our
And the freedoms they're referring to is the freedom from the Moors. Because again, the same way I'm saying that the European albinos went and colonized the world, the European albinos was a colony in itself. It was created. This is a created state, and they were ruled over by the Moors, or we could say, in some sense of the term, they were colonized by the Moors, or they came into existence by way of the Moors.
arms, protecting the freedoms we both cherish.
And when I say that, some people will say, like, even when I say the Europeans did this or that, every European didn't do it. There's groups, right? But speaking in generalities makes it easier and quicker to get our speech out. So a group of Moors brought the Europeans into existence and created a colony of albinos. But over what period of time? Likely thousands of years or many, many generations, because it takes a long time to create a high population of albinos and to graft the albino out of melanin. It takes several generations for that to occur. So was it all the Moors? No, but it was a group of brown people. Obviously, if the whole world was brown, then it was obviously a group of brown people that created a albino germ, was what we a scientific term, biological term, and or basically brought some albinos together and mated the relatives together and protected the colony as it grew, as it came from its infancy into a larger population. But how this happened, I don't know. I wasn't there. Was there some level of automation, or I can't think of the exact terminology to use, or I'm saying, did the albino colony itself form itself? Probably not, but at some point they would have taken charge of their own destiny and continued to populate, in a systematic way, and kill off any people with melanin in a systematic way, so that the albinos can continue to be albino throughout the generations. Because if you mix in any other so-called race of people, the albinos will no longer be albino, which is not a bad thing. Actually, this is the concept that we need to have. It's not bad for albinos to mix back into the population. It's not bad for the albinos, is what I'm saying. it's okay to become brown. You should stop fighting this. Fighting it is evil. When you fight it, you kill brown people. But if you don't fight it, we have relative peace. And it's okay to be brown. It's okay for your children, is what I'm saying. Your children are going to be brown. And your children's children are going to be brown. And every generation forth will be brown. But this isn't something to fight or to fear. This is just this is how life continues. This is a good thing.
Our countries are working together in support of crucial diplomatic efforts, not least of which, Mr. President, is your own personal commitment to finding solutions to some of the world's most intractable conflicts in order to secure peace.
If you want to secure peace, you will not put a priority on remaining albino for the rest of your generations. That the priority that you're putting to remain albino for the rest of your generations is what you, or not, I'm not, when I say you, it's what the some of the Europeans have called they've called it white supremacy. It's hard work to keep a high population of albinos. I mean, it's such hard work that you have to control the entire world to do it. And in order to make this population of albinos continue to grow, or even just keep any significant number of albinos, the only way to do it is to kill people with melanin, which is why they've convinced our people to stop populating or stop making children. A lot of us aren't making enough children, but see how evil it is? You wouldn't even have to do that if you just mix. Mix is okay. Mix back in, come back in.
In striving for a better world, we also have a precious opportunity to safeguard and to restore the wonders and beauty of nature.
The wonders and beauty of nature. Perhaps he's talking about the state of albinism. He wants to maintain the state of albinism, as I just mentioned, which is white supremacy. That's the whole fight. That's what they're fighting and I know there's different groups of people that are watching me. So when I say they, we, or it's hard to, I'm working on how to address the full audience, but we're all humans, and we all come from the same source. It's okay to come back into one source. It is actually, that's the way to live. That is the correct way to live. If you want to live backwards or live incorrectly, you'll be doing something evil. It is evil to attempt to create or to keep recreating a large population of albinos. It's okay that albinos exist. That's natural. But the large population of albinos it can only occur in a controlled state. It can only occur in an unnatural state. It can only occur if you control the entire world, not some of the world, not one or three continents. You have to control the entire world in order to pull this off, in order to, as he's saying, I think what he's saying is he's trying to preserve white people, but you'll still be preserved. You'll still be people. You just will have melanin again. You see, like him, this guy here that's right beside the individual who's styled as uh, President Charles. Actually, on either side of the guy who's styled as President Charles or King Charles, you see that their ancestry accepted being brought back into the fold, but it bring come back into the fold, or else again you have to. That's the only way. That's what white supremacy means is making an attempt to keep a large population of albinos, which again cannot be done naturally.
Guard and to restore the wonders and beauty of humanity, a better world, we also have a precious opportunity to safeguard and to restore the wonders and beauty of nature.
They're trying to safeguard and restore the wonders and beauty of nature. Again, I'm almost certain he's talking about white supremacy, or what they say, preserve the white race, which isn't a negative. It's hard to, when you're using these artsy terms, it ignores biology, and it ignores what it takes to keep a large population of albinos. This is, like I mentioned, I'm a biologist. I've done a lot of studies. I've worked at one of the studies that I did was again with albino rats, and we were studying type 1 diabetes, and we were studying a number of other things. But let me just say, we had to create. It was actually the step before me, but what had to be done was that they had to create a large population of albinos so that they can study the diseases that happen, or all the neurological problems and all the other problems, health problems that occur when you force a creature into albinism. But if we just allowed those albino rats back into the population and we didn't do anything, there will be no more albino rats. So how did we go about that process? It was before my step, before I got the albino rat as an albino rat. But to create that, we had a freezer full of dead albino rats, just to those deep freezers that you open, that you've seen like your grandma had or something. That many dead albino rats we were studying, and we were opening them up, and then we would, disregard or discard the body, or we would freeze it. But how did they get that large population? They probably had to start off with some brown or some black rats, and graft out the brown rat, or allow them to basically make brother and sister, and you eventually will get a brown rat, and then you make the lighter skin of them, or the lighter hair color and skin color of the rat, until you get the light brown rat, and then you keep that population, you separate that population, and then you make those, and then till you get a few albinos, and then you make the albinos, and till you get a larger population, and then you have to keep mixing in the lighter skin rats, or the lighter coat rat back into that population, so that they can keep reproducing. Because at a certain point, if you keep mixing albinos, they'll eventually become, if you keep mixing albinos with albinos, they'll eventually become infertile. But what did they do with that large population of black and brown and light brown rats? I don't know. They probably killed them, right? Because they didn't have a use for them anymore. The whole the whole goal was to get to the albino rat, which takes many generations to do. It takes a whole lot of producing other color rats. Which, okay, now let's go back to the humans. How do you keep a large population of albino humans? You what the people we call white people, and it's not all the white people, but I'm going to speak as people. I'm going to speak about people as a collective, so that we can get through the conversation. Which again, what has to be done in order to keep the large population of albinos, they would have to destroy anything that could stop them from being albino. And what would stop them from being albino? Sex with an individual that is a non-albino. Can you see how you can use language to make something that is heinous seem like it's the correct thing to do? Like he said, he wants to safeguard and preserve the beauty of nature. That's pretty that's pretty flowery, artsy language that I think he means. He wants to enact white supremacy and kill the non-albinos. But let's listen again.
Better world, we also have a precious opportunity to safeguard and to restore the wonders and beauty of nature for the generations who follow us. We share the ambition and determination to preserve our majestic lands and waters, above all, to ensure that we have clean water, clean air, and clean food.
Okay.
Precious.
Okay, so he's talking about two different things. The first part, he was talking about preserving the genetic type, I think. And then he started talking about keeping our water clean. So it sounds like he might be talking about we just want to preserve nature. But no, he's saying he wants to preserve the state of albinism, is what I'm really thinking that he's saying. If I'm adding it up, and that's what it boils down to, that's what he's saying. He wants to preserve the state of albinism in a large population. Again, albinism in itself is not bad, but producing a huge population of albinism, I just told you all the only way that you can do that. And then he talks about where's my other telephone? Oh no, he talked about keeping clean air and clean water. So let's listen to that portion again. I'm going to stop after he says he wants to preserve the beauty of nature for generations to come, or he wants to preserve and safeguard the beauty of nature for generations after him. At that point, he's talking about genetics, is what I'm surmising. I'll pause it after that.
This opportunity to safeguard and to restore the wonders and beauty of nature for the generations who follow us.
I'm saying he's talking about genetics at that moment. And then at the next moment, he clarifies, or he sounds like he's clarifying, but then he's talking about a separate issue with keeping clean water and clean air. But that, again, is a lie. They're not trying to keep the water clean and the air clean. Let's hear him talk. I'm going to stop it after his next sentence.
We share the ambition and determination to preserve our majestic lands and waters, above all, to ensure that we have clean water, clean air, and clean food.
Okay. Clean food would mean you wouldn't make the food albanize. You wouldn't albanize our food. So you're not trying to keep clean food. And you also wouldn't create genetically modified food if you're trying to keep clean food. So these are lies. And the what he just said about keeping clean air is also a lie. So every single day they spray chemtrails, and it's not some days. I mean, it's every single day, all throughout the day. All throughout the day. And I'm trying to put this in. Wait. Let's see. Why won't it get bigger? I want to show you this image. Let me see. I take pictures of the chemtrails. Can you see my phone? Okay, now look at those clouds. These clouds are formed by chemtrails. These are artificial clouds that were formed by what they call cloud seeding. You see how unnatural that looks? Maybe you can recognize it. Okay, let me go to another image. Okay, this is later that day. So what happens is the clouds then they gather water after they did the cloud seeding. This is later that day, and it becomes thick clouds that look kind of natural, but they're not. You see how these clouds can hopefully. I don't know if the reflection is too much to see what's happening here, but the type of cloud, those are all chemtrail clouds. That how it's all spread out like that. Those were all spread by the airplanes that dropped. They dropped this chemical compound. It's a chemical dumping that they do. So let me see. Okay. This light might be glaring too much for you to see what I'm talking about. Here's another image. Can you tell? Clouds seeded by chemtrail planes. Planes that are dumping chemicals. Can you tell? What I'm seeing on the screen looks a little different from what I'm seeing on my phone. Might be because that the wind is blowing these clouds that are obviously seeded by the chemtrails over to the side. Yes, and then so every time watch the cloud, the airplanes that they'll fly, and the sun will be like right here, right? Here's the sun, and you'll see the planes, they fly directly to the sun and leave this trail, and it'll just block the sun a little bit. You'll see a shadow, like that from the light passing through that thick trail. And then what happens is this trail then widens out, and then it completely covers the sun. That's why we have dark days and it gets cold. So they're doing it every single day. You're not going to, if you just look, you're not going to miss it. If they, like I mentioned before, if they stop doing it for 1 week, just 1 week, the Europeans that are here wouldn't be able to be here because it'd be too hot. And then this is what it ends up looking like. Can you see that? Okay. And then this is what I was just talking about, where there's the lines that you see how that line is directly going towards the sun. Can you see how long that? Okay, there's the plane, and it's leaving the trail. And the trail is blocking out the sun. You'll see they'll put it all over the sky. And look, it's directly in the path of the sun. You see all the X's around the sun, and then there's clouds that are covering the sun. And he said that he's trying to keep the air clean. That's a lie. And then you see this is one of the results. Can you quite see what I'm looking at? Might be, it's hard to tell from the screen, translating from one screen to another. Let me see. Okay, that was more chemtrails. Can you see how the sun gets blocked out from these odd looking clouds that are obviously I watched the airplanes lay the trail, and then I watched the trail expand, and it's directly in front of the sun. I watched the sun get blocked out. It was just be the area of the sun, like that's their main focus, is covering up the sun. And then the sun heats up the clouds, or heats up the chemical compound, and the chemicals then spread because heat makes things spread. And then the sun will be blocked out. And then what will happen is the entire sky will be blocked out. So all those clouds are unnatural. All those are coming from the chemtrails. And we just heard the individual who styles himself as King Edward, not King Edward, King Charles. He was just saying that they're trying to preserve clean skies, but that's not the truth. And he said they're trying to preserve clean water. But if you're creating these, look at that. Can you see that plane? You see that line? That's where all those clouds came from. And the sun heats that line up and makes it spread across the entire sky. I'm zooming in on the airplane that's flying. So they're not trying to keep clean water either, because these chemtrails is poisoning the water. Because these chemtrails create clouds. The clouds produce rain, and now we have chemical rain. Chemical rain comes to the ground and is now in our water supply. This is what they have to do in order to preserve a large population of albinos. Or not preserve, but to preserve and to create a large population of albinos. The only way you can do it is to control the atmosphere, the whole earth. You have to control the whole earth so you can control the atmosphere. And like I said, it's too hot. It's too hot for Europeans to be here. That's why the place was hard to invade. It's hard to invade Africa even. And it's well documented that the Europeans had a hard time going into our islands because it's on the equator. They also have a hard time coming into America because most of the year it's hot. Naturally, it's mostly hot. Oh, actually, this is an image you need to see. Most of the year in America, it's hot. And the only way to preserve white supremacy is to spray chemicals in the sky every single day. Okay, let's go back to his speech.
Our legacy for the next 250 years and beyond is to ensure that our children, grandchildren, and those who come after them can experience the awe and magnificence of the natural treasures found in the countryside, on the coasts, in the seas, and in the national parks established by your predecessors and mine. Mr. President, Mrs. Trump, the bond between our two nations is indeed a remarkable one. Forged in the fire of conflict, it has been fortified through our shared endeavors and burnished by the deep affection between our people. Tested time and again, it has borne the weight of our common purpose and raised our ambition for a better world. So, in renewing our bond tonight, we do so with unshakable trust in our friendship and in our shared commitment to independence and liberty. Therefore, as we celebrate this unparalleled partnership, allow me to propose a toast to President Trump and the First Lady, and to the health, prosperity, and happiness of the people of the United States of America.
I think it takes a high level of maturity to still respect. It either takes a high level of maturity or it takes a high level of stupidity. I haven't figured out which one. But I think perhaps it takes a high level of maturity to still respect the authority that's in place. President Trump is the president of the United States, and I'm not speaking ill of him. The individual who styles himself as King Charles has styled himself as King Charles, and other people view him as King Charles. So I'm not going to disrespect him. Now, they're continuing with this toast to the president of the United States. The president's about to speak here soon. Or they were not just toasting the president. No, just toasting the president of the United States, but toasting to many things he was reserving all the things.
Majesty, Melania and I are deeply grateful to you and Queen Camilla for your extraordinary graciousness. And to William and Kate, thank you so much. It's been so great being with you today. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. It's a singular privilege to be the first American president welcomed here. And if you think about it, it's a lot of presidents, and this was the second state visit, and that's the first, and maybe that's going to be the last time. I hope it is, actually. But this is truly one of the highest honors of my life. Such respect.
So I don't know what he meant by maybe this is going to be the last time, and that he hopes it is. I'm just not sure about that, what he's saying. I don't know if he's saying that he's the last president. You know, he hopes he's the last president, or is he saying that he's hoping he's the last president to go to the palace? I can't quite make out what he means by the words he just said.
this was the second state visit, and that's the first, and maybe that's going to be the last time. I hope it is, actually.
What does that mean? There must be, everybody else seemed to get what he was saying, so I must be missing something.
But this is truly one of the highest honors of my life.
Okay, but one guy scratched his head when he said that. Maybe I'm not the only one that doesn't understand what he's saying.
That's the first, and maybe that's going to be the last time. I hope it is, actually. But this is truly one of the highest.
So, I mean, I don't know. I'm not sure what he means by that. Maybe somebody can help me. Maybe you can explain it in the comments.
Honors of my life, such respect for you and such respect for your country. For many decades, His Majesty the King has epitomized the fortitude, nobility, and the spirit of the British monarchy and the British people. He's dedicated himself to preserving the glory and unique character of this kingdom, restoring life to the rivers and streams, supporting the works of its artists and composers, planting trees and gardens in its countryside. And I just visited one of the most beautiful I've ever seen that you just completed, and protecting the architectural integrity of cities, villages, and towns.
Does anybody else hear that feedback in the mic? You would think the sound guy or just the sound engineers would have done a better job to not have feedback in the microphones in the Buckingham Palace, if this is, or whatever, wherever they are. Am I the only one that finds this odd that there's so much feedback coming from the mics? I think that's rather unprofessional.
Uplifted the poor, cared for rural farmers, and tended to wounded veterans like nobody else. I'll tell you that I just stood in line and shook about 150 hands, and the king knew every single person and every single.
You hear that feedback? Just think the engineer, I would have done a better job. I mean, come on. This guy styles himself as the king of England and his wife, the queen of wherever, and President Trump of the United States. This is, marketed as a really big deal. You would think the sound engineers would do a better job.
Company, and some of them had bad names like XYZ-Q3, and he knew every one of them, or at least I think he did, because nobody was complaining. I was very impressed with that. But I just want to say that His Majesty has also raised a remarkable son in his.
Now, can you imagine President Trump of the United States speaking to the Moors, saying His Majesty, Your Majesty, and giving this level of respect instead of calling us Black people and African Americans?
His Royal Highness Prince of Wales, really amazing. We've gotten to know you, and I think you're going to have an unbelievable success in future. Melania and I are delighted to visit again with Prince William and to see Her Royal Highness Princess Catherine, so radiant and so healthy, so beautiful.
That feedback is really, it is really distracting and unprofessional. And the sound engineers, I would fire them.
It's really a great honor. Thank you. Many years ago, His Majesty opened his archives to a biographer. Among the documents was a letter from 1993 in which he described the patriotism and guided his many projects. He wrote that he was, quote, entirely motivated by a desperate desire to put the great back into Great Britain. In the finest tradition of British sovereigns, he's given his whole heart, everything he's got to
The way Trump moves is it entertains me.
back into Great Britain. In the finest tradition of British sovereigns, he's given his whole heart, everything he's got to those parts of
That sound system, those sound engineers, they're not even trying.
Britain that are beyond the realm of mere legislation. It's not easy, but which define its essence and its virtue, its harmony, and its soul. It's an amazing
I mean, come on. You don't hear those highs?
calling, and there's nobody that's answered that calling like you have. A fifth of all of humanity speaks, writes, thinks, and prays in the language born on these isles and perfected in the pages of Shakespeare and Dickens and Tolkien, Lewis, Orwell, Kipling. Incredible people, unbelievable people like we have rarely seen before, probably won't see again. The lion-hearted people of this kingdom defeated Napoleon, unleashed the Industrial Revolution, destroyed slavery, and defended civilization.
Said they destroyed slavery.
In the darkest days of fascism and communism, the British gave the world the Magna Carta, the modern parliament.
Right.
And
the Magna Carta. What is the Magna Carta? What is the Magna Carta? Is a 1215 English charter, Latin for great charter, that limits the power of the monarchy and establishes and established fundamental rights like due process and fair trial by a jury of freemen. Okay, this must be when did they establish Parliament? I haven't read this whole thing. Serving as a cornerstone for constitutional democracy and inspiring future documents like the U.S. Constitution and the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, signed by King John under duress, from his rebellious barons. Again, the kings didn't have all the power. The kings weren't making, the decisions that a lot of people, or not a lot, but a few of the Americans being the people we call Black people. Some claim that the Moors had a role that I'm saying they didn't have. But anyway, signed by King John under duress from his rebellious barons, the document's principles applied to the king and his subjects, marking a significant step toward the concept of rule of law. So that was 1215. When was Parliament created? The same. This is what I was talking about, but I had the year. Did I have the year incorrect? It said King John. Okay, so the origins of Parliament are in the 13th century, with Simon de Montfort's Parliament of 1265 in England serving as an early example of a more representative assembly. So like I said, the power was being taken away from the kings. This is in the 1200s. So, and the kings were the Moors. So the kings didn't have the same level of authority that we read about kings having in history. The authority was split between the king and the parliament.
Francis Bacon's scientific method. They gave us the works of Locke, Hobbes, Smith, and Burke, Newton, and Blackstone. The legal, intellectual, cultural, and political traditions of this kingdom have been among the highest achievements of mankind. There's really never been anything like it. The British Empire laid the foundations of law, liberty, free speech, and individual rights virtually everywhere the Union Jack has ever flown, including a place called...
Why are they zooming in on this more Asian individual with albinism? You see how his nose is wide? You can see that he doesn't have as much of the type of albino the Europeans are. He doesn't have as much of that blood, but you can see he has some. But so if I don't intend to do this, but if I were to try to create the generations after me, if I were to try to create them or try to make them albino, eventually one of the generations will look like this individual who is on the screen. See, it takes many generations to actually look like President Donald Trump or the individual who styles himself as King Charles. This would be one of the steps. This would be many generations down, and you would still see the nose.
America. You know that place very well, don't you? His Majesty spoke eloquently about the bond which inspired Sir Winston Churchill. The bust is in the Oval Office right now, the beautiful bust of Winston Churchill, to coin the phrase special relationship.
And then eventually, if what I was just mentioning, if I decided to make the generations after me into albinos, so the state that I just showed you, that would be one of the generations. Several generations later, if I keep mixing albino, the most albinized, or basically mix his bloodline, the guy who styles himself as Charles, the King Charles, if I kept mixing his bloodline into my line, eventually you would come up with this individual here. And then if you continue to mix the guy who styles himself as King Charles with my line, mix these two, eventually you get this guy here. Can you see the one that's next to the bus? The I don't know if this is security, a soldier, or what, but the individual who my mouse is circling over. So that would be a generation down. You see, it takes a long time before you get to this here, the guy, President Trump of the United States. And even it takes another generation or three to get to the guy who styles himself as King Charles. You see, he is the most albinized of the individuals that are currently on the screen. The guy who styles himself as King Charles.
But seen from American eyes, the word special, the special relationship. But seen from American eyes, the word special does not begin to do it justice. We're joined by history and fate, and by love and language, and by transcendent ties of culture, tradition, ancestry, and destiny. We like to...
Yes, they do share ancestry. They actually share very close ancestry, as I've been stating. The only way to create a large population of albinos history to mix close cousins or even brother and sister.
Two notes in one chord or two verses of the same poem, each beautiful on its own, but really meant to be played together. The bond of kinship and identity between.
For example, so let's say that, you know, the process of grafting out the albino got to the, you see this guy on the far right at the bottom, we got to this state where now we had a population of only people who look like, well, we had a small population of people who look like him, and everybody else was darker. We would only allow the people who look like him to mate, or we would allow them to mate in isolation. And eventually a few would pop out like this, where, you know, it's a little more albinized. And then you would allow the ones who look like this to mate in isolation. But now think about it. If he created one that looks like this, he'll probably create two that looks like this. So we're talking about brother and sister. So this is what I'm saying. Why not albinos, but why when you have a colony of albinos, they're closely related, because that's how you graft out the albinism. It's called grafting out, but what we're doing is we're just mixing. We're allowing the ones who are the most albinized of the group to mix in isolation, and then you produce some that look a little more albinized, that not look, but are a little more albinized, and then you have them mate in isolation. You're getting closer and closer related until you get like this guy. But you see, you can look at him and tell he has bad genetics. Like, I think it should be visible to anybody who's looking. This the guy who styles himself as King Charles II, his genetics are so bad that I wonder how fertile he is. Can you see how can you start to see the science and how the biology is working? If I'm speaking to where you can follow what I'm saying.
Between America and the United Kingdom is priceless and eternal. It's irreplaceable and unbreakable. And we are, as a country, as you know, doing unbelievably well. We had a very sick country 1 year ago, and today.
Do you hear that other, again, with the, I know that the mics are made, are turned up to where it can pick up the whole room, but all that interference, what is that? A walkie-talkie going on at the same time?
Priceless and eternal. It's irreplaceable and unbreakable. And we are, as a country, as you know, doing unbelievably
In the middle of this man's speech.
well. We had a very sick country 1 year ago, and today, I believe we're the hottest country anywhere in the world. In fact, nobody's even questioning it, but we owe so much of that to you and the footing that you gave us when we started. Together, we've done more good for humanity.
I don't know if that hurts your ears, or maybe I'm just concentrating on it too much, but that feedback is just very distracting. And then look at this guy. Do you think his children are going to have a high sperm count or viable eggs? What about when his children mate with these cousins, these close cousins that look like him, or that are at this level of not just albinization, but this level of inbreeding? Eventually, they're going to be infertile. I'm going to play it through this, through the interference or through the feedback from these mics, but it's so loud.
In fact, nobody's even questioning it, but we owe so much of that to you and the footing that you gave us when we started. Together, we've done more good for humanity than any two countries in all of history. Together, we must defend the exceptional heritage that makes us who we are, and we must continue to stand for the values and the people of the English-speaking world, and we do indeed stand for that. On behalf of all Americans, I offer a toast to one of the great friendships.
How can he offer anything on behalf of Americans when President Trump of the United States is not an American? He just said he's closely related to the individual who styles himself as King Charles. King Charles. King Charles is not an American. How can y'all be closely related and President Trump speak for the Americans on behalf of the Americans? He can't.
The people of the English-speaking world, and we do indeed stand for that. On behalf of all Americans, I offer a toast to one of the great friendships.
Again, he cannot offer anything on behalf of the Americans because he himself is not an American.
To two great countries and to His Majesty, King Charles III, a very, very special man and also a very, very special queen. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. It's a great honor to be with you.
That is the end of the ceremony. That is the end of the ceremony. All right. Before we go, I do want to hear this again.
America, 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 fuck yeah! Coming together, sing the motherfucking day, yeah, America, fuck yeah! Freedom is the only way, yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna pause it so that I can avoid any copyright strikes. And I don't know if I can, just talk a little bit and then play the song again.
Terrorist, your game is through, 'cause now you have to answer to America, fuck yeah! So lick my bird and suck on my balls, America, fuck yeah! What you gonna do when they come for you now?
So just want to pause it to make sure, I'm not going against any of the community guidelines or standards, because I like to, follow rules and not get penalized.
It's the dream that we all share. It's the hope for tomorrow. Fuck yeah! Go! Fuck yeah! Walmart! Fuck yeah! Yeah! Fuck yeah! Baseball! Fuck yeah! NFL! Fuck yeah! Rock and roll! Fuck yeah! The internet! Fuck yeah! Slavery! Fuck yeah!
And I remember this song from this interesting movie of puppets. It was a funny song back then. Still funny, I think.
Fuck yeah! Starbucks! Fuck yeah! Disney World! Fuck yeah! Porno! Fuck yeah! Value! Fuck yeah! Reebok! Fuck yeah! Fake tits! Fuck yeah! Sushi! Fuck yeah! Taco Bell! Fuck yeah! Rodeo! Fuck yeah! Get back to beyond! Liberty! Fuck yeah! Wax slip!
Oh. I wonder how many seconds I can play before it's too many seconds, and how many seconds I need to speak in between before it's enough seconds.
Fuck yeah! Alamo! Fuck yeah! Band-Aid! Fuck yeah! Las Vegas! Fuck yeah! Christmas! Fuck yeah! Immigrant! Fuck yeah! Popeye! Fuck yeah! Democrat! Fuck yeah! Republican! Fuck yeah! Sportsmanship! Books!
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Thank you all for coming. I appreciate everybody who has come out and everybody who watches the podcast on the replay. All right. I will see you all again. Peace.